Whew. Episode 5, House of the Dragon. This was heavy. Um, some stuff went down in this episode. I don't think it was quite as bad as the Red Wedding kind of stuff went down, but this was a heavy episode, man. The ending was something else. As always, if you're new here, don't forget this is not a spoiler-free place. So I'm getting caught up on the series and I'm talking about all the things. So if you haven't watched it and you're running behind like me and you don't want things spoiled, now's the time to go away. Otherwise, welcome. We're going to be diving into everything about episode 5. If you haven't already done so, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon because, of course, I do this show. I do other shows. Rings of Power, Wheel of Time. We're doing Star Wars Andor, Tales of the Jedi, all sorts of Star Wars stuff, Star Trek stuff, sci-fi, fantasy. We're doing the upcoming Willow, and so much more on this channel. So follow along. And if you could support like all of these amazing people, more at the end on how you too can become a supporter. In the meantime, let's dive into my show notes here. Um, there's a lot going on here. A lot. Just like more than like I was not anticipating what went down in this episode. Some of the stuff was, par for the course for George R. R. Martin, but also I haven't read the book, so I don't really know what's going on here. So let's go through the show notes here. So we start the episode with Lady Ray, who is Damon's wife in the Vale, and she goes off riding and meets him on the road, and he proceeds to. Well, here's the thing. I don't know what his intent was when he arrived, but her horse spooks, rears, throws her. She's insulting him the whole time before this happens, but then when she falls and she suddenly is like paralyzed and can't move, and she's laying there and he starts to walk off and she says, you know, aren't you gonna finish it, you craven? And he pauses, then picks up a rock and comes back and yeah, finishes the deed. And that was kind of brutal. And I don't know if he would have done that had she not egged him on, because she was yelling at him, have you come to consummate your marriage? The sheep might be willing, even if I'm not. The sheep are prettier after all. So she knows the rumors that he doesn't like her and thinks she's ugly. And anyway, he takes care of her, gets rid of that problem. That's mm. Then we're back to boat. King is obviously seasick here, and they're on their way to meet Corlys at his uh, castle to ask for his son's hand in marriage to the princess. Then we're flash forwarding now to Otto is leaving, and the queen is, in tears, and he's pissed. Like he's yelling at her, and she's, all this stuff. You made it possible. And then he goes into this speech, which he's not wrong. He's like, war's going to come when Viserys dies, and he's not going to see old age, so it's coming soon. And when Rhaenyra claims the throne, she's going to be forced to put all your children to the sword to quell the rebellion, because she's going to have to make sure that no male heirs are left alive, because the realm will not follow a woman. You just need to understand that. And she's heartbroken, but I think she's finally starting to see the reality of her situation. Um, Meanwhile, we're back at Corlys's castle. He's not here to receive, and the heralds tell him, "Oh, he's in the hall of waiting, hall of arrivals, waiting for you to get here." Um, so he goes off to meet the king. Now, the next scene, was one that I start to question because we have the queen out in a garden, and the new hand, his son is there, who's the crippled, whose name escapes me, but he's the one that walks with the cane, and he's all stumped over, and he starts telling this rumor that is the princess unwell? The Grand Maester delivered a tea in the middle of the night, and I don't know if he's genuinely concerned or if he's manipulating the queen, like so many others do. But she begins to question her friend's tale of innocence, um, and she's unknowing the that the princess slept with Kristen and might indeed be pregnant, and thus the tea. Um, But she obviously knows that something went down and that Rhaenyra did not tell her the truth. I don't know, is this guy a manipulator? I think so. The interesting thing about this next scene is Corlys is basically forcing the king to come to him. And so he's there with his new hand, and they're walking down this like tunnel or hallway, and it's just all these paintings and statutes, which are the exploits of Lord Corliss as he built himself up as the sea snake. So the dude is not a baby. He's not a little bitch. He's built himself up, and the king is Corliss is reminding the king, this is who I am. You need to respect me. And then when the king comes into the room, Corliss is seated upon the throne, awaiting his arrival, and he does get up and bow to the king, but it's a power play. This is definitely a flex on the king. King's coughing, very obviously sick. Here comes Rhaenys, his cousin. He gasps as she takes his hand. Are you well? And he's like, I'm fine, I'm fine. So this is all about the marriage. And basically, Corliss and Rhaenys want to know, what is the succession going to look like? We need to know. We need guarantees before we can agree to the arrangement. And this is a negotiation at this point. They want to know that their children are going to bear, you know, that the children of this marriage are going to bear their name. And the king is like, well, yes, but when they ascend to the throne, which they can do after Rhaenyra is gone, they will succeed after her. They must take the name Targaryen to continue the bloodline. And he's thinking of the prophecy. I don't think that they are aware of this, or maybe it doesn't matter to them, but um, it's negotiated, it's acceptable. They move on from here. And then we get this scene with the princess and Corliss's son are walking. And I'm not going to remember names because they're kind of, at this point, don't matter to me too much until we find out that they're more than just background players. Um, he's gay. And she tells him that's okay. You pursue your passions, I'll pursue my passions. We will fulfill our duties and obligations as the heirs, but outside of that, you're free to pursue whatever relationships you want, and I'll be free to pursue whatever relationships I want. They find this acceptable. I think they're going to get along just fine, or so I thought. Oh my goodness. Um, we're back on the ship, going back, and Sir Kristen has this. Apparently, he's all sorts of in love with her now, and asks the princess to abandon her burdens and indignities and become nameless and free to explore the world with me. Let's go be free, and you can marry me. And she does contemplate it for a moment, but ultimately she says, I can't. It's my burden to bear this responsibility. And she basically breaks his heart. She's like, I'm the crown, Sir Kristen, but the marriage does not have to end. Leonor and I have an understanding. He can pursue his interests, I can do the same. And this is where Kristen loses his shit. He's like, so you want me to be your whore? I've broken my oath of chastity for you. This white cloak is the only thing I have to my name, and I thought I could restore my honor if I married you. Oh my god. This poor guy. He is, as someone later in the show describes him, he is cunt struck. I had to laugh about that phrasing. But he's in love and, feels this, he's like, I swore an oath of chastity to be your protector, and I broke that oath with you, and I need to restore my honor, and she doesn't want to marry him. And she tries to give him this speech about duty, and he just says, fuck you, and stomps off. So it's really brutal scene here. They're back to King's Landing. The queen is overlooking as they arrive. The king collapses. Um, the king's left arm is toast, leprosy. He's being remorseful. What have I done? How will be remembered? His hand is reminding him that he carried his family's legacy and kept the realm at peace, so that's not a bad thing. Meanwhile, the queen has a heart to heart with Kristen and wants to know about the knight in question and demands to know the truth. And unknowing what he's doing, because she's not mentioning specifics, she just says, I know the princess may have had a lapse of morals. Did it happen? And she thinks Damon. And Kristen comes clean and says, no, my lady. Everything you've heard is true. It was me. I broke my oath. Please don't geld me or torture me. Just sentence me to death. And she's like, thank you for your honesty, Sir Christian. You can go. And he's confused. Like, he literally thought he was going to get the easy out and get executed to restore his honor. Um, so she's pissed, but also kind of relieved that her friend didn't do the hanky panky with her uncle. Um, Now we're dragons in the sky. The fleet's arriving for a wedding celebration. And this is when, oh my God, I should have known with George R. R. Martin that shit was going to hit the fan. And it hit the fan. Um, the wedding celebration is just it is a George R. R. Martin wedding celebration. Everybody's doing their things. Hubbub of who is who. The queen is absent. The king says she's getting ready, and Jason Lannister makes a dig at women and the princess by saying this is why men wage war because the women are never ready. My goodness. Celebrations kind of pause. Damon arrives. Everyone goes silent. The king looks pissed but gives him a chair anyway because it's family. And then as the king is giving his speech, the queen arrives. And I didn't quite understand what was going on here because she's wearing a green dress and apparently that meant something because it's something about her family, the family of Hightower or something. When they wear green, it's what they wear when they call for war. Um, and so I guess she's subtly defying the king and princess and gives Rhaenyra the stink eye, and she says, "Congratulations, stepdaughter." So it's no longer princess or, you know, it's stepdaughter now. It's like, oof, feel that burn. King forgets his speech. He's struggling to continue. Sir Kristen is being a pissy little bitch during this dance sequence between the princess and her new betrothed because he's all jealous. The queen is fuming. The king is nervous. Tensions are high. Meanwhile, the queen is approached by those of Old Town. They let her know what the green means and that they stand with her. So I guess this was a subtle reference to her making a political statement. Meanwhile, the guy who came from the Vale lets Daemon know that in the Vale crimes are answered for, even if they are Targaryens. Daemon bites back and says, "All your lands are technically mine because I was her husband and I will inherit. So I hope to see you there when I petition the lady of your kingdom for what is mine." And meanwhile, the king's consort, excuse me, the new husband kid, Corliss's son, whose name escapes me, has figured out who the paramour was, and it's Sir Criston Cole. And this is where they use the term, "Look, he's fully cunt struck. Obviously, he's bloodied his white cloak, and this is a good thing. She knows your secret, and now you know hers." And they smile together. Meanwhile, Damon is flirting with Corliss's daughter. She's reciprocating. Joffrey, the consort, then begins to have this discussion with Criston about how, we should keep our lovers' secrets safe because if they are safe, so are we all. And this is where shit gets off the rails. Daemon and the princess start to have this sort of confrontation, and they're speaking in High Valyrian. And basically, she is basically telling her uncle, if you want me, then man up and take me. Like, pull your sword, kill all the king's guards here, and fly me off to Dragonstone or whatever it's called and make me your wife. Otherwise, stop being such a little bitch, and constantly just causing problems. Either you're gonna be one of the old dragon lords or you're not. And so she's like poking at him here. And as this is going on, screaming breaks out, and it's Kristen beating the living shit out of the consort. Kills him there in front of everyone. The king starts bleeding from his face, and then the wedding ceremony is consummated in like silence, um, as everyone is left. And outside, um, Sir Kristen is in the King's Grove. Is it the King's Grove? But in the grove with the tree, and he's getting ready to commit suicide. But the Queen sees him and he stops. And then it comes back to the wedding ceremonies. It's finalized, and there's a rat like licking the blood on the floor of this long shot towards the ceremony being finalized, and then it fades to black. And I was like, you guys, like, this is what makes Game of Thrones so much better than Rings of Power or other shows because it has that bite to it. It's gritty, grim, nasty stuff. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. Let me know your comments on this episode as well. If you've gotten to the end, hopefully you'll support like all of these amazing people. It's really simple. On videos like these, just drop a super thanks down below or join as a member. There's 3 different tiers. You can also do super chats and stickers on live streams and all those good things. And don't forget the Patreon page if you want to find out more about what I'm working on with my wife and brother with that fantasy world behind me. Until next time, everybody, stay safe, stay healthy. See you in the next episode.